Hello, everybody. Welcome to TCOM 101 Online. I'm Dr. Mike Gerhard, Ball State University. You're watching online video 17. Yes, we continue to deal with the coronavirus, the big pandemic of 2020. Let's hope that victory will soon be in sight and we can move on with our lives. All right, the finish line is just ahead. We're coming to the end of the semester. I encourage you to study hard, finish strong. I know it's been a very, very challenging and bizarre semester for us and all of the students across the country, but we're almost finished and we'll move ahead. All right, please try and always remember this little Latin phrase, caveat lector, let the reader beware. This is such an important part of media literacy. Skepticism. In fact, it's been said that skepticism is the mark and even the pose of the educated mind. So please always, always let the reader beware. All right, in this video, I want to talk about freedom, and especially freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of the press. In our society, the United States, we are privileged to have a very high degree of press and media freedom, but that's not the case around the planet. Freedom is not universal. All right. Now, I like to turn to a place called Freedom House. It's a group, a not-for-profit public interest group, headquartered in Washington, D.C., and it does a survey every year of the level of freedom around the world. Freedom House. And media freedom is a very important part of the mission of Freedom House, to promote media freedom, which they define as the ability of journalists to report freely on matters of public interest. And yes, that is a crucial indicator of a healthy democracy. Now, every year, Freedom House publishes a map of press freedom around the world. Here's one of the latest versions. As you can tell, the countries in the green are considered to be free, have the highest degrees of press freedom. This would be North America, South America, Western Europe, Australia. The countries in gold or yellow are considered partly free, and the countries there in the blue or purple, those countries are considered not free. How does this break down by country and population? Well, about 25% of the countries in the world are categorized as not free. And those countries contain about 36% of the global population. So about a third of the world lives in countries that are considered to be not free in terms of media and the press. So we are very privileged to live in a society that honors and celebrates and allows a lot of media freedom. Which brings us to the political and philosophical foundations of telecommunications. You know, we see these symbols, the Statue of Liberty, the eagle. To us, most of us, they represent freedom and individual liberty. And this is an important part of our ideology here in the United States. Okay. But let's get some historical background and some context. You know, there are really kind of I'm going to reduce it, but there are really two basic kinds of political systems in the world. Okay. Libertarianism, which is based on the idea of liberty, and authoritarianism, which is based on the concept of authority. Okay. And the country's political philosophy will determine its media system. The media system is a reflection of the country's underlying political philosophy. Now, the oldest of the political philosophies is something called authoritarianism, and this goes back to time immemorial. Authoritarianism is a form of government that's characterized by a strong leader, a strong central power, and very limited political freedoms for the citizens. In fact, individual freedoms are subordinate to the state. And in addition, there's no real genuine constitutional accountability in an authoritarian society. Authoritarianism is alive and well across the world today. There are a number of modern authoritarian societies, including Russia, China, Syria, North Korea, and a number of other countries. Now, what are the characteristics of authoritarianism? In an authoritarian society, the state, the collective, is seen as the highest form of the social order. The state is above everything else, especially the individual. In authoritarian countries, the individual is really insignificant, kind of just a interchangeable part of a big machine. And in authoritarian societies, any means to uphold the state is allowable, even if this means censoring the media or jailing or even murdering journalists. Now, what about the truth in an authoritarian society? Well, in a authoritarian country, the truth comes from the top down. It's whatever the leaders, the rulers say the truth is. And it's very relative. It's subject to a lot of change. Now, even though that's the case, all the members of the society are expected to accept the authoritarian truth. Authoritarianism, Kim Jong-un in North Korea, a good example of an authoritarian leader. Are you hanging in there? I hope so. Keep wearing those masks and keep staying home and staying safe. All right, what about the authoritarian theory of the media? Well, that started to evolve back in Europe in the 15th, 16th, 17th centuries, and it came about as a development, as a result of the rise of the mass media. Did you know the oldest form of mass communication was the book? And the book came about in 1450 when a German, Johann Gutenberg, came up with a printing press based on movable metal type. So Gutenberg developed the technology that allowed the mass production of books. The very first book printed by Gutenberg, who, by the way, would feel very comfortable on the stage with ZZ Top, the very first book printed by Gutenberg was the Bible, the religious text, the Holy Bible. Now, the Bible wasn't much of a threat, but when the printing press started to be used for other forms of political communication, then it did become a threat to the rulers. And they very quickly developed methods to control the media, and these methods are still used today in authoritarian countries. One of the main methods to control the media is licensing. State licensing of journalists. If you don't like the way a journalist is performing, you can yank the license. Now, in the United States, we would never have licensing of journalists because that would violate the tenets of the First Amendment. Authoritarian controls include things like prior restraint. Prior restraint is really pure censorship, government censorship. A censor sits in the office of the media and determines what content will be shared with the public. A post-publication punishment, that's a good way to control the media by punishing people. And this happens a lot if authoritarian leaders don't like a message from a journalist. Well, they might jail the journalist or fine the journalist or torture or even murder the journalist. And murder is an effective form of control. How about government ownership? If the government owns the media, like occurs in some communist societies, well then it's very easy to control that which you own. And subsidization, if the government gives big subsidies to the media, they can use those to leverage the media. They can threaten to take away the subsidy and therefore control the content or the messaging. Now let's look a little bit at China, the great economic powerhouse, China. In China, you're not supposed to question the authority. In fact, questioning authority can get you into big trouble in a country like China. According to Freedom House, China is home to the world's most restrictive media environment, and it has a very sophisticated system of censorship. It's the Chinese Communist Party that maintains direct control over the news media, and it has a powerful propaganda department. Okay, how do the communists in China maintain control over the news? Well, first, direct ownership. If you own the media, it makes it easy to control the messaging. How about licensing of journalists? Yes, that happens in China. Harsh penalties for criticism of the government, and daily directives to the media outlets and the websites to guide the coverage of the breaking news story. So a highly controlled information environment. What about the online world, the web? China manages the web, the telecommunications infrastructure, and that gives the Chinese government the power to block websites, to remove apps from the domestic market, to mass delete posts and messages and user accounts if they touch on banned subjects in China. So a lot of control over the media and very little true press freedom in China today. Another very restrictive authoritarian country is North Korea. In fact, North Korea has some of the most repressive media controls in the world today. How does North Korea control the media? Well, all the domestic media outlets are state-controlled, and they're closely monitored, and they're all directed to produce propaganda with the aim of ensuring loyalty to Kim Jong-un, the country's leader. Another way that they control the information in Korea is by limiting access to foreign and independent media. That's tightly restricted, and if people are found consuming unauthorized news, they can face severe punishment. So, authoritarianism. Now, fortunately, the free spirit of humankind has led people to fight back, to resist, to chip away at the doctrines of authoritarianism. Isn't that what happened in our country? The United States is based on a revolution, a challenge to authority, in the name of ensuring more liberty and individual freedoms. And so in the next video, we're going to talk about the rise of liberty and libertarianism. But that's all we've got for this lecture. I encourage you to watch the videos and to start preparing for the final exam. Okay? Stay home, stay safe, stay inside, and we will see you again very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.